This chapter is intense in joy. Question of the day: what's your favorite song right now? It wasn't just a casino. It was the world's most pompous casino, just oozing luxury and grandeur. The parking lot was so understated compared to the interior. As soon as we set foot inside, the entire vibe changed. Only the richest people would ever gain access to this place. It was pretty dark inside, with small spotlights on the floor and a few beautifully designed chandeliers being the only sources of light. They were rich people chandeliers. They looked stunning, but they barely gave off any light. The walls, floor, and furniture were all black with different red tones dotted around. Since Luca did the talking with the hostess at the entrance, I took the chance to look around. From what I could see, the main casino area was on the ground floor. There were stairs leading up and down, which I assume led to private rooms. Once Luca let her know who we were, the hostess immediately guided us through the hallway and up the stairs. She was a hostess who was dressed more like a businesswoman. Her long, shapely legs were on view thanks to her fitted red dress, and her hair was up in a neat bun. Everyone we passed was dressed in sophisticated clothes to fit the atmosphere here. When I heard we were going to a poker game, this isn't what I expected. I expected some dodgy backroom deal with a few glasses of whiskey. After going up 2 flights of stairs, we were led to a set of guarded double doors in a dark hallway. Mr. Petrovic has requested you all be frisked before you enter. The hostess gestured towards 2 large security guards dressed in suits. There's no need. We won't be giving anything up. Luca rejected her, his tone leaving no room for argument. You're not expected to. He just prefers to know who is carrying what. If you don't get frisked, you don't enter. It's as simple as that. The hostess answered with an equally firm tone, knocking twice on the door. And Costa thinks I have an attitude problem. Seconds later, the door swung open to reveal a blond man with rugged features. His long hair was slicked back in a bun, his suit just as expensive as everyone else's here. Yes, he rose an eyebrow at the hostess, his eyes shifting towards Costa and Rocco for a few seconds. Mr. Accardi and his guests, sir. She nodded towards our group and he opened the door a little wider. They been frisked. His Slavic accent was thick, suggesting he was part of the Serbian Mafia. She shook her head and he dismissed her. You can go. Once she was gone, he returned his attention to us. I'm sure she told you the rule. You don't enter if you don't reveal what you're carrying. I could tell from the tension in his body that Costa wasn't happy. He didn't like being backed into corners, but he also had no choice but to comply if he wanted to get inside. Fine. Costa gave his consent and the 2 security guards started on Luca. Every time they came across any item, it was recorded on a clipboard. That included a phone, wallet, lighter, and weapons. After Luca, Rocco and Costa were both frisked, then they turned towards Giovanni. The security guard frisked his shoulders and arms before opening his suit jacket. He checked his internal pockets and then ran his hands over his waist, leading towards his pants. That's when Gio jumped back. Fuck no, Giovanni, Costa warned. I don't want him to touch my Gio. This time it was Rocco who gave him a look, warning him to stand still, which he did, albeit begrudgingly. It only took a few more seconds for the guard to search Gio, then he turned to Aiden. Have at it, bitch. Aiden spread himself out like a starfish, grinning at the guard. I'm sure I saw Luca roll his eyes while Rocco hid his smile. The guard patted him down, stopping for a longer time than anyone else to count out the items in his pockets. At least 3 packets of bubble gum, a yo-yo, a glasses case with no glasses inside, and a comb. Fucking weirdo. Rocco laughed as the guard handed him back all his random things, and I was the last one left. You. The guard beckoned me towards him. No way, I scoffed, taking a step back. Millie. Rocco spoke through gritted teeth, probably already anticipating I'd cause a problem. You think I'm letting him touch me? I rose an eyebrow at my brother-in-law who looked ready to murder me. She can just tell you what she has. Aiden spoke up for me, which is more than I can say for anyone else. No, she's not frisked, she doesn't go in. No exceptions. The blonde guy who came out of the room spoke with finality. Get a female to do it. Costa spoke for the first time, his eyes flitting between me and the Serb. Mr. Accardi, our guard, no man will touch my wife. His words came out slow and with so much force that I almost believed he meant it, but I wasn't really his wife, not like that anyway. A thick silence fell around us in the hallway before the Serb slipped back inside the room for a moment. He came back with a tall, blonde woman in tow. She sported a bored expression, her eyes scanning the group until they landed on me. She made her way over to me, brushing past Rocco and Costa. It was so obvious she purposely touched their chests with her arm. This bitch wasn't even subtle. She came to a stop in front of me, exaggeratedly dragging her gaze over my figure. She began by tracing her hands over my shoulders and then my chest. She ran her hands over my breasts, my stomach, and my sides. Then she came in closer to frisk over my back and down to my ass. Is this real? She whispered, squeezing my ass in her palm. I narrowed my eyes warningly, flinching uncomfortably under her touch. That's enough. Costa quickly stepped in, pushing her hands away from me. She rolled her eyes, frisking my hips and then my legs. A knife. She reached under my dress to tug my knife out of the holder, showing it to the guard who was taking notes. What did you think you were going to do with this? She rose an eyebrow, twirling my favorite knife between her fingers. Shall we find out? I went to reach for my knife, but Costa grabbed my hand before I could. Let's not find out. He murmured, gently squeezing my hand in his. He took the knife from her while the guard opened my purse to check the contents. I made sure to put my knife safely back in the strap. Phone, gum, makeup, and what's this? He frowned, pulling out the plastic packet from my clutch. A snack. I drawled, eyeing the tampon in his hand. I'm sure the couple of stifled laughs gave away that I was being sarcastic, but I still don't think the guard figured out what it was. Once we were finally done being frisked, we were led inside the large private room. There were more people inside than I expected, but most of them were loitering in the background. With a private bar area and booths for seating, it was the perfect setup. However, all the focus was on the poker table in the middle. There were only 6 men sat around the table, one of them with a woman perched on his lap. The limited lighting cast shadows over their faces, obscuring the details from my vision. Regardless, I could still sense the power and dominance radiating off them all. If I was ever to walk into the lion's den, this would be that moment. Most of these men were at war with my family. As soon as they realized who I am, my life would be under threat, and my husband knew that before bringing me here. Ah, Costa, you finally made it. The thick Slavic accent sent shivers down my spine. Sorry about the security. You can never be too careful. The man laughed as we neared the table, allowing their faces to become clearer. Akko. Costa nodded but kept his greeting minimal. Akko, I know that name. I racked my brain hard trying to put all the pieces together until they clicked. The memories came flooding back immediately. Akko fucking Petter, now that you're here we can get started, join us. A different man with a distinct Dutch accent spoke this time. Go and sit over there with Luca. Costa turned to Gio and Aiden, who wore the most serious expressions I'd ever seen on them. Osserva tutto. Si qualcosa non ti sembra giusto, dimilo. Observe everything. If something doesn't seem right, tell me. The twins obediently went over to a corner booth in the room, which gave them a good vantage point of the poker table. Rocco remained on Costa's right side, and I was still on his left. His firm grip on my hand was the only thing keeping me in that room. You keeping your bitch with you? The first man spoke again with a laugh, lighting a cigar up. He was the one with the woman sat on his lap. She had her body turned towards him, but her gaze was fixed on us. He put his lighter down, returning his free hand to her exposed thigh, tracing his fingers up and down her skin. Acosta placed a hand on the small of my back to guide me forward towards the table. As we came closer, I was finally able to make out the 6 men around the table. There was a clear divide, with 4 seated a little closer together and 2 across the table. The 2 men were Dutch. The 4 men were from Serbia. I recognized the leader almost instantly. I'd seen his photo in my father's office numerous times over the last few years. Ako Petrovic. He sat under one of the few dim lights, leaning back lazily in his seat. His cigar hung from his lips, both hands now on the hips of the woman. His eyes followed us as we walked towards him, but he barely paid me any attention. He was the leader of the Serbian Mafia and the host of tonight's poker game. Most of the men and women in the room were loyal to him. My wife. It was Costa's curt response, dropping his long-awaited bomb on him. His eyes followed us as we came to a stop across from him, a frown slowly forming on his face. He put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly, and so did everyone else. Akko, his woman, and the Dutch entourage were the only ones in the room who didn't stand up or immediately pull out a weapon. I couldn't count how many guns were suddenly pointed towards me within those few seconds. It was the first time in my life I'd ever experienced something like that, and the reality wasn't lost on me. All it took was for one man to pull a trigger, one slip of a finger, and that would be it. In stark contrast, Costa and Rocco barely even flinched. While I was a nervous wreck, my husband and his brother looked amused, to say the least. "What's the matter?" Costa rose an eyebrow at Akko, pulling me into his side. "You don't like my wife? You brought a GRC Hachek Ki. Greek. Akko spat as he aggressively shoved the woman off his lap. She barely managed to catch a hold of the table to stop herself from falling on the floor. "I brought my wife," Costa corrected, tightening his hold on my waist. "She's a fucking Darmos," he bellowed, standing to his feet. I'm sure I saw spit fly out of his mouth, that's how loud he shouted. His enraged gaze fell on me. If Costa didn't have an arm around my waist, I would have shrunk back from the intensity of his glare. There was a sadistic glint in his eye. His mind was racing with ideas, none of which would be good for me. No, he shook his head, pointing in my direction. "I want her out, she stays. You get that bitch out of my sight before I take her from you." He placed his palms on the edge of the table, leaning over. "I'll fucking rip her apart as a message to her father. Good luck with that, bitch. He hates me just as much as you do." I could see Costa's plan working in real time. Everyone was relaxed and ready to play poker when we entered the room. Now they're all teetering on the edge of madness. "You're thinking about her father when you should be more careful threatening my wife in my presence." My husband mused, an edge of anger biting into his tone. "You fuckers brought her here on purpose." Another Serb spoke, appearing to be a close relative to Akko, most likely his brother. "You're asking for trouble." "Nonsense." Rocco dismissed his accusation with a laugh. "She's his good luck charm." Costa likes having her at high-stakes games, so he invited her out for the night. The flat looks Rocco received didn't seem to bother him at all. They all knew it was bullshit. Costa, Akko spoke in a warning tone, gripping onto the table with white knuckles. She's here with me, now are we going to play or not? Acosta cocked an eyebrow at Akko, who was close to losing his mind. It took a long while before he finally gave a single nod. Akko dropped back down on his chair, taking a deep inhale of his cigar. He was super relaxed before, but now his whole body was rigid because of me. There were two seats remaining, one for Rocco and one for Costa. Get her a chair. Rocco was the one who gave the order to no one in particular. He expected someone to comply, but no one did. Ni. You know, a different man spoke in Serbian with a shake of his head. She can sit on your lap or with the other curve. Whores, none of us spoke Serbian, but the way Costa tensed up confirmed that curve wasn't a polite word. Rocco. And Costa gave the order to Rocco, who easily passed it on to Aiden. With a single look, Aiden got up and brought over another chair for me. He also took the chance to glare directly at Akko Petrovic, who definitely didn't appreciate the show of attitude. I gave Aiden whatever grateful smile I could muster up before taking my seat next to Costa. Costa was between Rocco and I, directly across from Akko. Just like that, Costa was now in the driving seat of this whole thing. One would think he was the host instead of the simmering Serbian crime boss. Akko had lost control of the game, and I think he knew it. Costa leaned back in his seat, his legs spread out in a classic man spread position. He threw one arm around the back of my chair. His eyes narrowed in Akko's direction, and he used his free hand to rub his lower lip. So are you going to deal the fucking cards? Costa snapped, his Italian accent so thick and alluring. Not the time. That seemed to force Akko out of whatever haze he was in. He called over the professional dealer to shuffle and deal the cards out according to the standard Texas Hold'em rules. The entire time, his eyes were focused on Costa's arm wrapped lazily around the back of my chair. Akko was planning my murder, I could feel that shit. As the game progressed, the stakes got higher and higher. More money was being bet with every round, and soon they began wagering business assets. There was a lot at stake, and it just kept going up. Eventually, the Dutch players backed out once they'd lost around $20 million. Acosta was cool and collected the entire way through. He never said a word that wasn't directly related to the game. Rocco was there for support, but they would only need to share short glances to convey their messages. Me, on the other hand, well, I was just there to remind Akko of his war with my family. Every time he looked at me, he would lose his temper all over again. It was the perfect way to unnerve him while Costa remained poker-faced. I had no clue what Costa's cards were. He only looked at them once when he got handed them. Rocco also checked them, but I never did, so I never had any idea how strong his hand was. He could have been sure of a victory or bluffing his way through. When it became just him and Akko left in the game, that's when tensions hit a boiling point. The dealer dealt the flop, turn, and river, and the final round of betting began. So tell me, why did you accept my invitation tonight, Costa? Akko took a hit of his cigar, eyeing my husband. The dealer dealt the turn card, and it was time for the next round of betting. That was the first time they'd spoken about anything other than the poker game. Perhaps I just wanted to remind you how easily I can beat you at poker. Akko forced a laugh. I don't think so, you want something. Doesn't everybody want something when they come to a poker game? Rocco scoffed, not bothering to fake amusement like Akko. I suppose, but what I want to know is what you're after from me. He wanted Costa to admit out loud what he came here for. But that would also mean revealing his cards, so to speak. We love a poker pun. He'll be telling Akko how desperate he is for that particular asset. Poker is all about playing the man, not the game. How's your sister? Acosta suddenly asked, a slight smirk tugging at his lips. She doing okay? What business do you have with her? It was another one of the Petrovic brothers who jumped in, his eyes focused on my husband. Our paths have crossed a few times. She's a nice girl. Costa shrugged, taking a hit of his cigar. Did you touch her? This time it was the guy who insisted we all get frisked. His name was Milo. Touch. Acosta frowned, clearly goading them into giving him a stronger reaction. Did you sleep with her, Shupek? Asshole Milo spat, and Costa won again. Seriously, these Petrovic brothers aren't very smart. Well. Does a gentleman kiss and tell, Rocco? Costa nudged his brother, who flashed a smirk at the Petrovic brothers. No, sir, Rocco laughed. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes at the sudden turn in the conversation. I definitely didn't come here to listen to Costa brag about sleeping with their sister. You know something, Costa? Akko spoke, sipping on his whiskey. You're not as classy as your father. Your father has more honor, more sophistication in his business dealings. Now it was his turn to hit Costa where it hurts. This is what poker is in the underworld. By this point, they knew if they could win with the cards they'd been dealt. Now it's all about playing the man. Who can goad the other into giving up as much as possible? Who can push the other to make a stupid mistake in a fit of uncontrollable rage? My father. Acosta sighed, tilting his face upwards to exhale the smoke from his cigar. My father has many sides to his personality, Akko, as do I, and I'm sure you do too. And perhaps if we met under different circumstances, you'd see a different side. Perhaps, Akko nodded. But for tonight, let's save the false niceties. You want the contracts, you know I could easily bet them. You could easily bet a lot of things. It might be the contracts I'm after, or it might be something else. Costa murmured, tapping the ash off his cigar. Well, I'll tell you what I want. In exchange for the contracts, you bet your arms manufacturing plant in Montreal. What the fuck for? Rocco questioned almost instantly. What do you think? Akko spat, his beady eyes shifting towards me again. The Greeks are messing with my shipments from Serbia. I need a production source closer to home. A production source closer to home would mean he'd have the weapons to be able to fight my family again. Costa wouldn't really risk giving it to him, would he? You've done your homework. Acosta laughed, relaxing back in his seat while still keeping an arm around my chair. La Famiglia isn't directly associated with that factory in Montreal. It's not hard to do a little digging. You're the biggest weapons exporter out of Canada into the US. I need that plant. Montreal is too close. It would be detrimental to my family in New York. I wanted so desperately to say it to Costa, but I willed myself to keep my mouth shut. You're working with Kozlov, Akko. Costa pointed out the obvious. Betting casino contracts is one thing, but arms manufacturing is another game altogether. Kozlov's problem with you isn't my problem. My problem is with them. He nodded in my direction, keeping his eyes on my husband. The weapons won't be used against the Accardi family. I'm not stupid enough to take your word for it. Montreal is out of the question. It's too fucking close. They could easily transport weapons across the Canadian border and into the US. They could bring them straight to New York where we all lived. If the Serbs and Russians had access to a steady flow of weapons in New York, there's no telling what would happen. It would cost a lot of lives. They could kill my family. For a moment, the conversation ceased with the Serbs leaning into to whisper to one another. His brothers pitched in some advice, and then Akko turned his attention back to Costa again. So you don't want to give me Montreal? These contracts aren't cheap, Costa. This was a critical moment for Costa. If he backed down now, he'd suggest his cards were too weak to beat Akko. But if he went all in, he'd be risking a lot. Let's say I do want those casino contracts. You put them in and I'll put in 3 clubs. Clubs? One of the brothers scoffed. Our clubs in New York clean a lot of fucking cash for us. Rocco chimed in, glaring at the Serb. We'll put in our 3 most lucrative clubs for those contracts. Now they were on the upper footing again. They matched them like for like, the clubs for the casinos. Winner takes all. Akko seemed to be pleased with the way it was heading when he released a throaty chuckle. Nodding his head, he leaned back in his chair. I like it, I do like it. But let's make this a little more, Zanimiljivo. Interesting, what the fuck does that mean? And that's how Giovanni found himself on the receiving end of a room full of looks. Meanwhile, Aiden was struggling to contain his laughter by covering it with a series of coughs. I hid my smile behind my hand, turning my face away from the Serbs across from us. Jebeni Italiani. Fucking Italians, Milo, the brother who had us frisked, muttered. Then he addressed Giovanni's question. Interesting, let's make this interesting. Giovanni saluted him with a grin, raising his glass in the air as Akko appeared to relax more and more as the seconds ticked on. He let the suspense linger as he drank his whiskey, his eyes focused on the 3 of us. You obviously brought your wife with you to get under my skin. So in my eyes, she's fair game. Akko said, raising the stakes even higher. His eyes shifted directly towards me, a sadistic gleam shining in his blue orbs. I don't like where this is going. I'll put in all 3 contracts. You bet your 3 clubs and you throw in your wife for the rest of the night. My heart fell to the pit of my stomach when he smirked at me, that promise of ripping me apart as a message to my father coming back full force. No one dared to even say a word. It was dead silent in that room. Costa and Rocco remained unmoved. Whatever was going through their heads didn't come through in their expressions. I've said once before that Costa's poker face is what makes him so dangerous. He could be in the most difficult spot, but you'd never know it. He can guard his thoughts and his emotions with ease. Costa sipped on his whiskey, his eyes downcast towards the table. He put the glass down and relaxed back in his seat, releasing a slow sigh. You want me to bet my wife? There was something extremely sinister in the way he said it. And it wasn't just a question, but it wasn't just a casual summarization of what Akko just suggested either. It was a promise of death if there ever was one. Like I said, she's fair game. You've already used the bitch once as a weapon. Now it's my turn. If you win, you take everything and I'll give you Alexia for the night. If I win, I get your wife for the night. Akko glanced over at the woman who he shoved off his lap earlier. She was watching exchange with a blank expression somewhere across the room. Then he studied my husband for a moment before continuing. I promise she'll be returned to you in one piece, perhaps just a little looser than before. Ayako's sick laugh and crude remark brought the first physical sign out of Costa to suggest he wasn't happy. His body tensed next to me, his hand balling into a fist on his lap under the table. You said you're better than Akko at poker, right? So you should have no problem staking your wife on that claim. One of the brothers added. Costa still didn't respond, and I only wished I could know what was going on in his head. I didn't know what his cards were. I didn't know how big of a risk it would be if he did choose to play. I didn't dare say a word, not even with the fear running through me. Any sign of emotion or a reaction from me wouldn't help Costa. You know, I heard a funny story, Akko laughed. I heard Kozlov wanted her first, so you sabotaged their relationship. Now the whore is yours. Kind of pathetic, no? Going after a woman like that. The laughter that rang out around us was drowned out by a sudden memory I had with Julius and Damien. Flashback, Mildred, stop. I want to go to the fucking club, Damien. What's so bad about that? You just can't. Just trust us, okay? We need to protect you. Damien took my hand to stop me from edging closer to the front door. They'd been in meetings all day, but the very moment I tried to make my hasty exit, they came storming down the hallway to stop me. Protect me from what? You never tell me what's going on. I eyed my cousin and then my brother, who looked extremely irritated. Because it's better you don't know the details. Look, you already know we're at war with the Serbian Mafia. It's better you stay at home unless you're going to work. I'm 20 fucking 4, Julius. I'm not letting you ground me without a good explanation. I can take my guards with me and I can protect myself. I haven't been grounded for years, and I'm not letting my bitch of a brother start now. The two of them had a silent conversation like they always do, which left me third wheeling, waiting for a response. Ako Petrovic is a sick bastard, Millie. He hates women and he's not against using them as collateral in business dealings or war. He might be trying to target the women in this family. I can't risk your safety. What do you mean he hates women? I knew Ako Petrovic was the leader of the Serbian Mafia, but I didn't know anything else about him. He doesn't believe they have a place in society apart from servicing their men and having children, that kind of shit. He's never made it a secret how much he despises them. He owns one of the most successful prostitution rings in Europe. Damien spat, his eyes lighting up with anger. He's all about kidnapping women and selling them for profit. It's what he believes they're worth. And you went into business with someone like that? My accusatory tone had the two of them glaring at me. It's not that fucking black and white, Millie, Julius argued. If we refused to do business with people over this kind of shit, we wouldn't exist. Whatever. I dismissed that line of the conversation, bringing us back to the original point. So you're saying I can't go to the club because there's a woman-hating pimp who might hurt me, and he killed his own aunt. Damien jumped in with a grin, earning a glare from Julius. My cousin loved to gossip. He did what? Yep. He killed her in cold blood when he caught her fucking the butler. Damien laughed. I mean the fucking butler, Millie, seriously? She went out banging the butler. Cue a laugh from both of them. I grimaced at the thought, shaking my head in disgust. How do you even know it's true? I doubt he really killed his aunt, guys. Mafia men had more self-control than that, right? Oh, it's fucking true. He started a civil war within his own family. His cousins weren't happy when they found their mother dead next to the butler. His hatred of women almost brought down the Serbian Mafia for good. He told us himself, Julius explained. There was once a time Ako Petrovic was on good terms with the Darmo's family. It's not public knowledge what happened in his family. We cut him some slack on late payments when he explained that half his family are actively working to remove him from the throne, so to speak. It's still going on now. They're always making deals behind his back. They're just waiting for the right time to get rid of him. End of flashback. As their war progressed, we had lots of conversations about Ako like that one. They'd always remind me to be alert because of this woman-hating bitch. To my knowledge, his family were still plotting against him, which he knew about. He's a paranoid, unhinged, misogynistic psychopath. Her pussy must be fucking good if Kozlov is going to war with you over losing her. I'll enjoy it tonight. Ako was still trying to get a rise out of Costa, who was definitely holding on to his last shreds of patience. Instead of correcting Akko by announcing I'm in fact a miserable 25-year-old virgin, I decided on a different approach. While they were all still laughing, I leaned into Costa, placing my hand on his shoulder. I brought my lips close to his ear, turning my face away so Akko couldn't read my lips. When he was on good terms with my family, he told them about a civil war in his organization. His cousins have been trying to oust him after he killed their mother for sleeping with their butler. They've tried to keep it quiet, but he really hates women. Anyone close to him knows that. Hey, whatever you have to say it out loud so we can all hear, bitch. He's so annoying. Julius extended his payment deadline when he explained his family was breaking up into factions and he was losing control. He told him in confidence when he hit rock bottom. I don't think they've ever stopped plotting against him. I just about managed to finish my sentence to Costa before a huge bang had me flinching. I was still leaned into Costa when I turned my head to look at Akko, who had just slammed his hand down on the poker table. That's enough, whispering. Akko spoke through gritted teeth as I moved back into my original position. This time I did roll my eyes only because this guy was getting on my last fucking nerve. Let's not forget during all of this, I was still PMSing. I was doing my best to control my temper every time he spoke about me in a derogatory way. My eye roll had his eyebrows shooting up before he released a sick laugh. My, you have an attitude on you, don't you, little Darmo's girl? Tell me, Costa, when was the last time you put your wife back in her place? He just called me a little Darmo's girl. What a freak. Akko's eyes scanned me, his eyes shifting down to my breasts encased in my silk dress. He licked his lips, his eyes meeting mine again. I'll happily put her over my knee right now in front of everyone and do the ho no. Fucking try it, bitch. I finally snapped, leaning forward to glare at him. I'll slice your throat open before you ever put a hand on me. Acosta was quick to put a hand on my thigh, giving it a gentle squeeze. Rocco sat up straight in his chair, leaning around Costa to shoot me a glare. I was too full of rage to even care about the Dacardis, though. This man had done nothing but disrespect me and insult me right to my face this entire time. Costa even started bragging about sleeping with their sister right in front of me. And he only brought me to the poker game to cause a stir. I'm more than a fucking pawn in their game. That's enough. This has gone on long enough. Costa's deep voice easily commanded authority despite being surrounded by Serbs. Then what is it? You know what's up for grabs. Play and you can win the 3 casino contracts, your clubs, and keep your little wife. Akko sneered in my direction. What's your move, Costa? If you fold now, you know you'll lose the clubs and the casinos. He'd lose millions, but he'd be protecting me. Costa clenched his jaw, pinning Akko with the most furious expression I'd ever seen on him, and I've seen him angry. He glanced at his cards one last time, considering the stakes. A thick silence fell around us while we waited for Costa to reveal his decision. Without a word, he tossed his cards face down on the table, signaling his fold. With that, he pushed his chair back, grabbing my hand. Rocco followed suit, and so did the twins and Luca. Within seconds, they were behind Costa as we walked to the exit. That's it, Akko laughed victoriously. Damn. Either you're a shitty businessman, a shitty poker player, or that bitch of yours means more to you than you want to let on. No, Akko. Costa stopped, turning to glare harshly at the Serb. I'm just above betting my fucking wife in a poker game. I'd never let you near her, not after what you did to your aunt. Did I want to smile when Costa used the information I gave to him? Definitely. Akko's eyes darkened, his body becoming tenser than ever. That was a secret one he told my family before they ever went to war. You have enough problems within your own organization. Take my clubs. I'll make that money back in a fucking week while you're still looking over your shoulder wondering which of your cousins is going to stab you in the back. Costa let go of my hand, taking a step forward, his voice lowering to a menacing tone. And when it happens, because it will, I'll be there to congratulate the new leader of the Serbian Mafia with a fucking drink and a business deal. Maybe I'll even help screw you over after the way you've been disrespecting me all evening. Acosta laughed, the tension red hot in the room. Don't betray your family, Akko. That's rule number one in this life. They'll come at you from all angles until they tear you to shreds and throw you to the wolves. They'll never forget what you did, so it's only a matter of time. Good luck, you're going to need it. In a flash, we were out of the room while Akko bellowed in Serbian behind us. Acosta pretty much dragged me along with him while Luca went ahead, clearing the way. I'm not sure exactly what he thought Akko would do, but I wasn't about to question why he had me trying to keep up with him in my heels. We made it outside where the cars were waiting. Costa opened my door for me, waiting until I got in before he slammed it shut. For the first time in hours, I released a breath, running a hand over my face. During that short moment of calm, I could hear Costa barking orders around. Rocco was getting into an SUV with the twins, and Luca joined one of the security cars in the convoy. Then he got in next to me, bringing all that anger and tension inside with him. Fuck. He slammed his hand on the wheel, causing me to flinch at his sudden outburst. I don't think he noticed, though. His eyes were focused on the wheel while he clenched his jaw, breathing heavily. I didn't dare say a word to him, not that I knew what to say. I had no idea what truly happened, not really. All I know is he didn't go through with the bet and he just lost a shit ton of money and business assets. But I didn't know what hand he was dealt. I didn't know if he could have risked it or not. We drove home in silence, a lot faster than I expected. I'm guessing Costa told his security guards to keep the speed up all the way back. He didn't even bother turning off the engine when the cars sped into the underground garage. He just got out, storming straight over to the elevator. Before I even had the chance to get out in my dress and heels, they'd all gone upstairs. They just left me, idiotas.